The show today brought to you by the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, the leaders in orthopedic physical therapy. Find them online at orthopt.org. Now, with their current concepts of physical therapy in their 5th edition, it can help you prepare for that OCS examination. Find them online at orthopt.org. The Brooks Institute of Higher Learning gives you advanced post-professional education with 7 on-site PT residencies, including orthopedics, women's health, pediatrics, sports, and neurology, as well as an OMPT fellowship, all focused on experiential learning. Find out more at brooksihl.org. All right, good Tuesday morning. He's Tony Maritato. I'm Jimmy McKay. Dave Kittle lost in the Georgia backwoods. We have no idea where Dave Kittle is this morning. He's lost. Tony, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. Listen, if my audio or my video cuts out, just let me know. I'll switch over to something else. But I can totally see Dave, like total wilderness. What Survivor Man? Do you ever watch that?
A Survivor Man? I don't know if I've seen that.
So Survivor Man was my favorite. He was out there by himself doing his own videos, his own recording, like completely alone. The other guy, I can't remember, Bear Grylls or something like that. Yeah. He had like a crew and he had people with him. It was totally fake. But right. Survivor Man, he was incredible. I loved watching every episode.
You talk about like why it's good to create content. We didn't plan on talking about this. I don't know the guy's name, but I watched a video, and maybe it's the guy you're talking about. He's got a family, but most of his videos are by himself, and he's got glasses. He kind of looks like an accountant, but to be honest, like this guy's super, super smart, and he shows you like how to build a, how to build a structure out of snow so you don't die and had all that stuff. And that sort of like content like fascinates me because hopefully I'm never going to be in that situation. But if I am, I'm like, I just need like 2 nuggets, like just 2 nuggets to get through the night.
Dave is back.
I'm here. Good morning. I'm
Dave,
here.
We have a musical intro for you this morning. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday, Dave. We won't ask how old you are. You don't do that after like 17 years old.
If I'm as fit as Dave, I want people to know how old I am.
Yeah,
how old are you?
I am 38 today.
Awesome.
And I don't want to say it's your birthday, cry if I want to. So it's my birthday. I can be late to the show if I want to.
It's true.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. We were just saying you were probably out like catching dinner. You were killing animals.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Jimmy, I think who you're talking about, it's the Outdoor Boys channel. Maybe. The guy was an attorney. He was a lawyer, and then he started doing YouTube. He had a couple different YouTube channels. One was like carp and catfish, where he did all the fishing stuff. But then he had the Outdoor Boys, where he's got his 4 kids, his wife. I think he was from Alaska originally, and he does a ton of stuff in Alaska. And he shows you how to like create structures and shelters. And that guy, it's got to be doing tens of millions in revenue and mostly profit because there's like no expense for him.
None. I mean, he would even go to, he bought a piece of property and then his whole content for the next couple of months was like renovating it and like what he found on the property and what he could use and what he could turn it into. There's a guy by the name of Sean Gatz. He's got like tattoos all over his face. And he's like out in Arizona and he's building like a compound. Like the guy's like hand building this like by himself. And that's another example of like when I watch 2 or 3 of his videos, next thing you know, I'm seeing 5 or 6 of those things suggested a day. And it's funny because then all of a sudden you're like, where'd that guy go? Like, is he still around? Because it sort of fades out. So it shows you that your audience is like sort of constantly coming in and fading out.
Yeah. And talking about catfish and carps, Dave, let's talk about your post. Let's talk about how you screen and how you avoid, therapists. And here's the context for anybody listening. So I shared Dave's post about 100 up to 120,000 a year, 4 to 6 patient visits a day, I think it was. And I was like, how do you avoid those therapists who, and it could be the best of intentions, they think they're amazing therapists. They think that they're killing it. They think that they're working so hard. They think that they're sacrificing so much. But then once you get them in the organization, you realize they're just lazy and deluded. They have no idea. They're not a good therapist. They're not fun to be around, and they're not working hard. But when you put a post like on the screen, NYC PTOT up to 120,000 salary compensation, treat 4 to 6 a day, house calls, coaching, mentorship, that is going to attract everybody. How do you find the ones that really resonate with your culture?
Yeah, I mean, great question. First of all, yes, that is the point of these posts, is to have a bigger top of the funnel to attract more potential candidates. We were in the car yesterday going from this Blue Ridge, Georgia cabin over to Tennessee for a batting cage, actually, the D-back company. So we hit there. And on the drive, I pulled out my Google Drive, my playbook that we have for concierge pain relief for my practice, and I added a Google sheet, a file just for this exactly. And with your post, I said, how do we, and I need to get, the reason I have the playbook, by the way, is to get things out of my head and get it documented somewhere electronically so that it'll help with onboarding with other new employees and growth and all that type of stuff. So I added this in the in the recruiting and hiring folder of the playbook. And how do we, I wrote a bunch of things down, but really, like, the most concise thing is is that it's all about signaling. What I mean by signaling is we have a candidate, they apply through our website, they respond to an Indeed ad, maybe they come through my network like this, like someone sees it on Facebook or LinkedIn, they private message me on LinkedIn or Facebook, we start a conversation. I don't know if I have a great answer other than it's signaling, meaning as someone goes through the whole process, right? So they inquire, they're interested, I'll send them, or someone on my team, like, we'll send them the FAQ document. It's like 6 pages or something. It answers like a lot of the normal questions of, like, do we need to bring a treatment table? Like, what about CEUs and like documentation? It answers every single question around potentially working with us. So one thing is, like, they read that, then we have a 15-minute phone screen, then we have a 60-minute Zoom interview, then we would have an in-person interview where they evaluate me and I'm the fake patient. So in this whole process, it's signaling, meaning how timely they respond to things, how do they conduct themselves on the phone, what are the things that they're interested about, like the questions that they ask. I don't know particularly how, I'm sure I have it somewhere in my head. And this right now, as we're talking about this, like, I'm literally, it's kind of still processing, like, how do I know if someone's lazy or not? I think there's some amount of motivation. I think that a therapist would want to run around New York City and see 4 to 6 patients a day, compared to being in an outpatient office where they see, 10 to 20 or whatever, 25 or, at the high end. That is easier. So already my job listing or my job specs can be more challenging, and it takes more effort to do that. Also, with my therapist, when they schedule follow-up visits with patients and clients, they're doing a lot of the scheduling themselves, compared to an outpatient office where the admin, the front desk person, has their open panel, and they're just like, oh, Tony's open on Wednesday at 9:30, and he's got an opening at 2:15 and 5:30. Which one works better for you? So it has to attract, and it doesn't always, but these job posts, it has to try to attract someone that understands there's going to be some extra work. And I used to think that this was easier. I used to think that my offering, my job, was easier than going to an outpatient office and 15, 20 patients a day. Sturdy McKay, my business mentor, my coach, my business partner, he made me realize that this is actually more work and more challenging. So I was like, it took probably a year for me to actually understand that. And Tony, I don't know if I'm even giving you a great response right now. Like, how do I know if someone's lazy or not? They have to follow up efficiently, quickly. They have to exude, interest and emotion, and they're showing, here's why I'm in. Oh, another thing I wrote in this document is I need to find like a specialist a particular specialist health physical therapist, as opposed to just like a generalist who is like whatever job, like random, like I'll take any job that's on Indeed. Obviously that therapist is not for me. So we can get into it.
Let me ask you this, and Jimmy, I'm sure you probably have something to chime in. The process that you're going through, I love, and ChatGPT is like the perfect scenario where last night I used ChatGPT to create a new patient admission procedure that was formally documented in a step-by-step method for my Medicare billing course. So for you, for this, like I would be talking to ChatGPT just like another person saying, help me understand the process of how I weed out the individuals who are applying for a job that are not appropriate. What are the questions I'm asking? What are the things I'm thinking about? You know, and ChatGPT will give you the finalized document that's actually the step-by-step process that creates the structure for your business, the SOP, procedure, policy, whatever you want to call it. My follow-up question is, when you identify through, let's say, the 15-minute interview, you're like, oh, this is not going to work. This is not the person for me. They might be a great person. They might be well-intentioned, but this is not the person that I want on my team. Do you cut it off right there? Do you say, stop, let me stop you. This isn't going to work. Do you let them, finish the 15 minutes and then tell them something? Do you email them? Like, how do you break up before you ever start the relationship?
Yeah. So on that 15-minute phone screen, I'm really asking like 3 quick questions. And then at the end of that, it's really like, hey, Tony, I liked those replies. I liked your answers to those questions. While we're here on this phone, like let's pick a time. Otherwise, like if we can't, and if I got to run, like I'll send you a link and you can, pick a time on my calendar. But otherwise, let's schedule that 60-minute Zoom interview, because the 15-minute phone call is just to ensure that it makes sense for both of us to invest in the next step, which is that 60-minute Zoom interview.
But what if you realize at that 15-minute call, it's not making sense?
It doesn't happen too often, because I think in this whole process, again, Sturdy helped me with this, which is candidates are always on their very best behavior, best behavior ever at the very, very, very beginning of the entire process. So I feel like you can't always, I can't always know how great someone is. Now, of course, in the first, let's say in the first 7-8 minutes, right? I will definitely say, I'll nicely say like, hey, like it's not you, it's me. It's like, based off of this or that, like I feel like this doesn't match the ideal candidate that we're looking for. And I know you're gonna rock and roll at some other role or job or whatever. And there's tons of jobs out there. So you're gonna be fine. You're gonna do great. I don't think, based off of the first thing, 1 or 2 things you said or whatever, or a question, I don't know, like a question like something that I'm trying to think what would disqualify someone. Like, oh, like, I don't know, like, oh, you don't have like private car service drive me around to all your home visits. Like, I don't know, like that's something that hasn't happened, but something that would disqualify someone, I would absolutely want to protect my time and say, hey, I know we said this is a 15-minute phone screen. Sometimes it goes longer, and yes, sometimes it can be shorter, and I'll cut it off.
Jimmy, what do you think? When it's not going to work, the chemistry's not there. I think I know within the first couple minutes. I hear it in the tone of voice. I see it in their body language and their mannerisms. Like,
Dave cares too much about breaking the other person's heart in this situation.
No, I don't. No.
Then cut it off, right? Then be like, hey, listen.
I said I do. Yeah. I mean, I said, because I've done this for a while now, and a lot of folks exude what we're looking for on the first or second call, and sometimes either I'm not picking up on some of those signals, or I'm letting too many of them pass through, and I'm not filtering them out early enough. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I need to continue to get better at that. And also, every candidate is going to be on their very, very best behavior on the very beginning of any engagement with any recruiter, business owner, practice owner, whoever.
So I like this ad. I think it's very different. Number one, it puts money in it, and that like all you're already like 90% ahead of most job postings, right? By putting an actual salary in there, which in 2024 is mind numbing because it just wastes time on everybody's end if this is going to be a deal breaker. So I don't know the answer, but I do know a lot of questions. So can you reverse engineer the people that you have found who have been great? Are they the kind, like, how about they help you design the ad? Because for me, you said you thought this would be like the easiest job. Because to Dave, this is easy. But from what I'm hearing, to a lot of people, this is the opposite of easy. This is choose your hard. For me, going to work at a radio station and riffing for 5 hours every single day, super easy. Any of my friends who are far more intelligent, that was really hard. So it's like you choose your hard, right? So like that's one of those phrases that comes to mind. Choose your hard. So, and I don't want to tell the same story over and over again because I think I did, but I used to look for weekend radio DJs. Essentially, like, you're going to work all the fill-in holidays, you're going to work Christmas and New Year's and weekends. Our ad was worst job ever. Minimum wage, nights, weekends, holidays, no perks, no job security, called in a minute's notice. And I weeded out. But the job is you get to be on the air at this radio station. And we ran that ad as a campaign. So if I got 15 candidates, great, because I only had to hire one. I wound up hiring more because of the sorting process. So
I've done not on this graphic, but in the caption description of other posts, I have written things like demanding yet motivated clientele. Because some of our clientele, like, even if you say, hey, I'll be there around 9:30, and some of these like old, retired, semi-retired M&A lawyers and investment bankers, whatever, like, it's like 9:32 and the client or their spouse are, texting or calling the therapist like, hey, are you still coming today? And it's like, yeah, I'm 2 blocks away, or like, it's just crazy, right? So like, I have put some of that in there. I have put some of that in the job descriptions or in the social media.
I'd make it the campaign. I mean, that's what we did. Like, worst job ever, like minimum wage. Like, I only want the people who really super want this. Now, I'm not saying you have to say like minimum wage, but it's like toughest job in New York, like toughest physical therapy job in New York. Like, what I want the people, like, why do you do Tough Mudder? Like, why do you do Iron Man? Like, you do it for the t-shirt, right? Like, you do it for the journey. Like, that's the person you're looking for. You're looking for the person who does it for the journey, right? And then you're going to reward them with the medal and the t-shirt at the end. Like, you're going to compensate them, but you're looking for the people who are like, I'd do this if it were free. I don't know.
Now,
I have to think about it.
I like that strategy for patient acquisition. I want to tell patients, this is a horrible experience. You are going to feel terrible. We're going to drag you through the mud. Like, we're going to do all of these things, because I want that patient coming to me who's not expecting to lay on a table and have me rub their back. Yeah. I want that patient who's looking for a challenge, who wants it to be hard. From a talent acquisition perspective, I do find too, going back and being like, who is the people? What is the person that's been successful in my organization already? What is their personality? What were the things that stood out to me? Like, how can I convey that to future prospects? One of the stories I always share is, I was taking somebody around. It was the granddaughter of a patient who just wanted to learn a little bit about physical therapy. And I noticed while I was showing her around the clinic, she picked up a step stool and moved it to the side. She wasn't applying for a job. She was just asking for information about what we do. Without me telling her, she picked up a step stool, moved it to the side, and I said, I want to hire you. I want you to come work for us. Like, that was the thing, because she didn't take verbal cues. She identified a potential risk. She took care of it without being told, and she wasn't getting paid to do it. Like, those are the characteristics and the traits. When I see somebody, a waitress or a cashier at a retail outlet, when I see them do something that's beyond just ringing people up, and it's using analytic mindset to solve a problem, instantly, like, hey, do you ever think about getting into healthcare or doing something? Here's my card. This is my business. We're always looking for people like you who identify problems and you handle them without being told to handle them. And I try to convey that in the job description of, these are the people that have been successful. What were you going to say, Jimmy?
How do you do that on an interview? Because how do you do that? How Dave's doing that? Like, how do you set that up?
So for me, it's usually pre-interview. It's this is how back in the day, how I used to identify candidates. Like I wouldn't even waste time half the time. I wouldn't waste time posting jobs because these are going to be people that I don't want to go through the screening process. So just when I'm out to dinner with my wife, buying something at Office Depot, you know, out with my kids, I see somebody at the trampoline park, that one person who sees trash on the floor and picks it up, whether they're an employee or an attendee, that's the person that I want to hire for my business, you know, and that's where I always used to get my best employees.
So some of the best therapists and candidates that we've had over the years are ones that do some of those things electronically or digitally, Tony, and they do it, like you said, kind of in the pre-interview, like before we're speaking. They'll reach out, they'll apply, but then they'll say things like, hey, I saw, they'll pull up random things from my website. You know, like we have a page on the website for like, it's called Second Opinion. You know how like orthos and physicians have like a second opinion, you know, page on their website. Some of them do. So we have that on our website. They'll mention that, or they'll mention like certain like Google reviews. Like they'll actually look at the Google reviews that patients have written, and they might say, you know, like, oh, this is interesting, or oh wow, you guys also go to hotel rooms in the city for tourists and other people that are visiting the city. Like that's really cool. That's kind of you know, different and interesting. Those are the signals, Tony, that I was kind of talking about earlier. Those are the things that a candidate is showing their interest. They're showing that they're kind of, you know, curious, that they're almost, they're kind of like trying, or they are exuding like, here's how I'm different, like here, and maybe they're not even realizing it. Like these are things I would want to do, which is like, if I'm applying to Tony, or, you know, to work for PT Pinecast or whatever, I want to mention some unique thing. I want to stand out, right? So candidates should want to stand out, and those are the things that we see with candidates over the years. The ones that are the best ideal fit for us and stay the longest, and, you know, love our patients and clients, and they understand the job roles and responsibilities and everything, they typically will say some of those things up front. They'll say, oh, I saw on your LinkedIn, what's this Fieldmaker Group thing? And oh, you guys are looking to acquire practices. So like, that's kind of interesting. And some of the therapists are like, you know, like maybe they're like, can I, you know, learn more about that? Maybe I can, you know, work, you know, with concierge pain relief, and then learn a little bit more about the M&A stuff. Those are the things, those qualifiers, or those areas of interest that we see with candidates. And I don't really think about the laziness versus like you're saying, like, how do you know if an employer or candidate is lazy or not? I feel like cognitively, like they're already showing that they're not lazy, because they're pulling out these random things on your website or Google reviews or whatever, and then they're mentioning it in the process or upfront when they're applying.
Yeah. There are some questions up here if you want to get to them, Jimmy.
Which one?
David said, in terms of attracting new therapists to join your clinic, do you think it's attractive to offer paid APTA membership?
I've never had a candidate ask about it, so I don't know how important it is to most candidates. Although, you know, it's not like we're getting a ton of candidates compared to like Fox Rehab or, you know, some gigantic clinic or practice. If candidates ask about it, and again, if they're the ideal fit, all that, like, sure, like whatever the price is, like we can add it to the benefits. But that's not typically like the main ask or, you know, request for candidates on the front end.
Yeah, usually for me, when I'm putting together an employment package, I basically just say, what's the most important thing to you? Do you want more time off? Do you want benefits? Do you want education? Like, I don't care. I've got a bucket of money that I'm going to spend. How do you want me to spend it? And from that, then we can talk about what your priorities are, what's most important to you. And you know, if the absolute raw dollar amount is the most important thing, we can get there. But like anything, it's got to be an objective decision. It's like, hey, I want to make 120,000. Okay, this is what you need to do to make it. And you know, if we can't do it, we can't do it. Go work for Dave.
Yeah.
Was that Tony? Was that on Facebook or LinkedIn? Where was that question? Because I don't see it here on the live comments.
I don't know. So I'm looking. It's on YouTube, David's on YouTube. Will Boyd's on YouTube. John Mitchell. And then I see Steven from LinkedIn. And then there's a physiotherapist saying, what's the most effective way to study biomechanics?
We'll put the link to my Amazon affiliate link for the biomechanics book comments below.
That's how we study it.
No, I mean, how do you study biomechanics? I don't know. What do you learn best? Is it a book? Is it videos? Is it a course? Is it in person? I would say go to YouTube and search in biomechanics.
That's actually what I was going to say. YouTube. Yeah, there's
you're
so much
here.
out
You're on
there.
YouTube. That's the way to do it.
So did we cover
anything else on this topic?
Yeah, maybe. Did we cover this, Steven's comment right here?
No.
Go ahead.
So Stephen Rapicelli down in the Delaware area. Stephen, we've never spoken, but I know your name, and he's got a couple different clinics. And I mentioned him here on the show before because he was the one that also popped up the separate brick and mortar stretchplex, like the stretch places that are, remember that? So he's a fascinating entrepreneur, and I would love to connect with him. So Stephen put in quotes, how do I know if someone is lazy or not? This is great to hear him, I guess he's talking about me, thinking out loud to see his thought process. And he agrees, very difficult to assess behavior and character traits. Bravo. So yeah, I think it's really challenging to assess this also in just 15 minutes on a phone call. Like then it's really the next step is the Zoom video interview, right? Like we can kind of see someone's like body language. They're, are they kind of shrunken in? Are they, taking up space with like are they confident with how they're communicating and all that? But yeah, I think in the first call, it's really challenging.
The other thing that came up was this reminds me of the first time I ever learned about what the golden mile was. You guys know what the golden mile is, right? Like Amazon is very efficient at getting you to their website, SEO machine, monster, very efficient at having everything, very efficient at checkout, very efficient at logistics. I'm sure there's a robot now packaging my order from yesterday and getting it over to a cart, which it gets it to the right truck, which gets it to the right sorting facility. It's that last mile, because there's an Amazon facility like 3 miles up the street from me. I'm sure it gets there, but from there, it's got to go to 100 or 1,000 different locations in my community tomorrow. And that's the problem. So this is where Dave's ad is like Amazon. It's like, dude, like you can put some dollars behind that and you could hit 1,000 people, the right people tomorrow. But it's that, well, how do you sort from 1,000 to 250 to 115-minute conversations to 6 1-hour Zoom calls to pick the one? This is the golden mile problem. This is why like recruiting and staffing is a major issue. You're not looking for people, you're looking for the right people. And that's hard.
Yeah, I remember when we used to post on Indeed for an administrative assistant, and we'd get like 300 or 400 applicants.
Wow.
Most of which I don't even know if they were genuinely applying or if Indeed just threw a bunch of resumes our way. But it got so overwhelming that we would just cancel the ad and stop because we didn't have the capacity to weed it down to, 3 ideals. In regards to the laziness, I do think there's a subjective element to that. It's like, how do you define lazy? That somebody else had made a comment. Is it lazy or efficient? I think it's one of those things where you're the business owner, you're the hiring manager, you're the one that defines it. And once you define it, then you start to identify those characteristics that would be a red flag for your organization.
Agreed.
Dave, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say really quick, I know we've covered it before, but we took this similar type of very concise couple sentences, like basically that graphic, but in messaging form on LinkedIn. I mentioned this to Jimmy before, I pay for Sales Navigator. I previously had used Sales Navigator on LinkedIn to find board members for Fieldmaker Group. And so I was using it to find, cold contacts that are interested in joining our efforts. Now I'm using it for therapists. So I will probably the past couple of days, I sent out maybe 80 messages to PTs and OTs in the New York City area. They have to accept or decline it, which is kind of interesting, but LinkedIn ensures that like they'll be more likely to see it. I think they send them an extra email or two or whatever. It prompts the person to like, hey, jump back into LinkedIn and, check out this message that this random practice owner sent you or whatever. So I got probably close to like a 8 or 9% response rate from therapists. A couple of them were like, hey, I'm only interested in outpatient practices. Fine. A couple of them were like, hey, yeah, like, thanks for reaching out. I'll let you know. Because the last sentence is, it's not asking for you. It's asking, hey, do you know any colleagues that would be interested in possibly speaking about this? So again, we covered it before. But I'm already getting some more replies from therapists that are like interested in, part-time or PRN or full-time. And, can you send me more information? So then it kind of starts the whole process, send them the FAQ document, all that. So again, the manual prospecting still works.
I got a different topic. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, think about the next topic we want to talk about. I want to tease Jimmy, Dave, and I are going to do a 6-pack episode where we're going to talk about, like, each one will bring 2 ideas to the table on how to make yourself as a candidate as valuable as possible, like dollars in your pocket valuable, because I think there are very specific things you can do to raise your value, your hourly or annual rate by thousands of dollars. And they're not that complicated. And I want to bring it from the perspective of new grads or DPT students, even through, more experienced clinicians. I think there are a couple little things, and each of us are going to have different opinions on what you can do to make $10, $15, $20,000 a year more when you are looking for that next job or that first job. So what else do we want to talk about today?
Here's something I thought I wanted your take on from Neil Patel. We talk about creating content to get attention. Dave created an ad, right? He's doing this, but he also works with other people who run ads or do different things. So we talk about the idea of creating content, but a lot of times it's just content. Do stuff. Which stuff? All the stuff. Do all the stuff, right? So people have a good conversation, which is like, well, which stuff should I double down on? Should I try to convert my audience from reading to watching or watching to listening? Or should I just say they like reading, so I'm going to stick with reading? So you guys are familiar with Neil Patel?
Yeah.
So Neil Patel, super smart guy, big in, content, SEO, analytics, blogs. He's got a couple of really, really great resources. My favorite is Answer the Public, which is like a reverse Google search, just a really great starting place for trying to figure out your audience, your who. He released this graphic, and here's why Neil Patel is so smart. People are feeding him information. They'll happily give him their information in exchange for resources back. And Neil is now paying attention to, if Dave is saying, I want this person, I'm guessing how old they are based on where are they maybe in their career. This graphic is highlighting generational marketing and behavior insights, how different age groups engage with content. And he sort of says, like, I'm going to take the different generations, Alpha, Z, Y, X, and baby boomers, and I'm going to rank them in terms of how do they like to interact with content, from email to blogs, webinars, videos, podcasts, or text-based posts. And he sort of does a heat map. And look what I like, I'm not a scientist, but I look at the middle of this graph and I go, look at that. Look at that heat map in the middle, right? If this were a baseball player, do not pitch in the middle. But this is
middle
of that. This is throw it down the middle, right? If you want to hit. So for the people listening on the podcast, you can find this by looking up Neil Patel, NP Digital. But long form and short form videos, and then we'll also say images, are either a 4 or a 5 or a 4 out of 5 in terms of how people are willing to engage. And that goes from Gen Alpha, born 2013 to 2024, which is who born in 2024, and you're engaging with content already. Okay, apparently. So Gen Alpha all the way to the baby boomers born back in 1946. So video connects, and then you sort of get a little bit weaker, or a little bit less as you sort of go away from that middle. Podcasts and images coming on the fringe on one side, webinars, blog posts, newsletters going out. So I feel like there's a couple different ways to approach what kind of content you and your business create. I always tell people, if you don't like doing it, it's not going to last. So either don't do it, or that's where you have to hire someone to do it. I know plenty of people who are brilliant, but are never going to turn the camera on and talk by themselves. So I say, don't do it, except this data says, if you want to talk to those people, those are how to do it. That's where you hire someone to hold your hand. And it can be simple as, setting the camera up, making the lights are good, making sure your microphone and audio comes out well. It's also like sometimes you need the handheld to actually get that done. I do this service now on and off. Well, I call it batting practice. Dave comes to me. Dave, maybe we'll just do this. Let's just do this between you and I. You come to me and you say, here are my problems. I go away and I come up with 20 or 30 questions that I think your answers will help your audience come to the conclusion that whatever answer you want them to have is you. Then I sit down, put you on camera. I turn my camera off, so it's just the Dave show. It's just Dave. And you sit there and answer, and you give me answer, and I ask you the same question from 7 different. If I don't like the answer, great. I star it. I come back again. But then I'm smart enough to pass that video off to an editor who's going to make that thing pop. So this data can say, well, I don't like doing video. I don't like myself on camera. Doesn't say you have to be on camera. But also, you don't have to do the whole process. So that was some interesting data and what I thought about it from Neil Patel.
Yeah, that was the first thing that popped out at me. I was like, long form, short form video, 5s all the way down. Awesome, because that's where I feel the most comfortable. I'm not a great writer. I don't do audio only podcasts. So it just happened to work out. But if anybody listening right now, like I've shared this before, I said, look, if you're not comfortable talking to a blank screen, like Jimmy said, figure out ways to make it work. Yesterday on my Instagram, I'm trying to grow my Instagram, tony.maritato.pt. Go check it out. I recorded myself teaching a patient how to do what I want them to do. I think the particular one I shared yesterday was like a sit to stand squat, and it was using this chair. And it was totally different because I don't even know the camera is there. I hit record, I set it up, but I'm not thinking about the camera. I'm not thinking about the audience behind the camera. I'm thinking about the patient in front of me. And so I'm talking to that patient very differently than I would talk to that little dot. And it changes the dynamic. So no matter how uncomfortable you think you are, talk to a human and record yourself doing that.
It's really hard. It's just really simple. There's cameras everywhere.
It's so simple. We're doing long form right now, and then you guys chop it up. We chop it up. Nate, my editor, chops it up, and I haven't been doing a lot of YouTube shorts and clips and reels and all that, but I need to get back to doing it or offload it and have someone else do it. But you make the long form content like this. There's going to be certain nuggets and things that you really like, and you want to get in front of your ideal client or customer or your certain demographic or whatever. And you cut out those pieces. It now becomes short form content, and that is that 5 by 5, that middle area where it's still like a really powerful medium for all these demographics, all these different age groups.
So Dave, I want you and I in the next day or two to do this. And again, this is going to take you telling me, I'm going to write you an email. You're going to respond back. I'm going to write 20 questions. Then we're going to jump on the same platform we're recording right now. We're going to record for, 15, 30 minutes. There's no real limit till we get to what we feel is good. Then we'll chop those up and you share them, and let's see how it does. Because we also had an idea of what if we could do this in person? Because I really do think people, myself included, are sort of blocked in terms of, okay, I know I have to do that, but sometimes you need someone to come along and go, knock, knock, knock. I'm at your house. We're going to go clean out your garage. It's like you could have done it the whole time, but you needed someone to actually be there with you. So the idea is, could we do this at CSM, right? Because me flying to Dave's house or me flying to Tony's house, you don't want to have to pay for that, right? But if we're already at CSM, if we flew in a day early, so you're like, okay, I'm going to pay for the service, but I'm going to be able to charge you a lower rate because I'm going to bring a photographer with the gear and the but better than the gear, better than the photographer, better even than the editor afterwards, because there's apps for that. It's someone actually giving you batting practice. Dave, you think hitters would get good? You're a baseball guy. Just by tossing the ball up to yourself and hitting? What about a tee? Just a tee. That's it? You got to see live pitching, right? So that's sort of the assist, which is sometimes you need someone to understand where you're trying to hit the ball or where your problem is to pitch the ball in that location. So I don't know. I think I tossed you guys a price on what I would charge someone. And I think Tony was offended by that price. He was like, double it, triple it. He's like, it's worth more. And it's because I'm a bleeding heart. But if people were going to CSM, I'd be interested. Number one, no one's doing it. So why aren't they doing it? Is it because we've had this idea that no one else has? Also, I think people are doing it, just not in our profession. Or is it not valuable? Will people not pay for it?
It's definitely valuable. I think a lot of folks that are like not fully in the media space, meaning, and I'm like, I would say I kind of am, and Tony definitely is, like, the people that are not in it, they don't understand like the ROI and how if it's patient facing, like, you know, how many new patient evals and how many plans of care came from this and all that. Like, you know, I think, you know, if you really want to make more out of it, then that is another way to probably charge 2, 3, whatever X, because if you can kind of show, you know, hey, our average place, you know, average, you know, like for me, like if you and I do it, we should do it first of all, then we can track it. I will be happy to share like how many leads, how many patients converted, how much they paid, all that type of stuff. We can even interview if they approve of it. I can then interview and like speak with the patients, get that on video, and be like, hey, here's a patient that came through this video interview platform through PT Pinecast and Jimmy McKay, and here's what resonated with them, and here's why they started with us, and it all came from a video through Jim.
I didn't think about this, but that's one level deeper, is that we always say like, hey, listen, putting your clinicians on camera is good. You know what's better? Putting the audience on camera. But now you're forced to sort of be the media person. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. So another follow-on service could be the same process, but instead of a clinician doing it via Zoom or in person, is the patient. Now we're going to ask, okay, like, what was your experience like? Those sort of things. A lot of times patients too, it's a little awkward. It looks like a hostage negotiation situation. How was your experience here with me as your physical therapist? Of course you're gonna. It was great. I loved it. Right. But now it's this third party who's actually the one asking the questions. It's a different situation.
Now, Jimmy, I know you've done this synchronous and async. I love the idea of asynchronous. I've done this before also, where basically you've got somebody remote, you know, a therapist, and you're like, look, I'm going to record me asking the camera 10 questions. And then that therapist at some time in the next week or two, they're going to play that video and then record their answer to you as if you were there asking them live. But then the next layer to that, if you had the time and the money, is you would take their responses and you would re-ask your questions, because their responses are going to always be just a little bit off to what your questions were in the beginning. And Correct. So you can re-ask the question to better match and engage with their responses. And when you mix it all together, you have amazing content. And to talk about the value, to talk about not understanding the value, I think it's just like patients. Patients come into the clinic. They're like, why do I have to strengthen this muscle? Why do I have to improve my cardio? Why do I have to do these things? They don't understand the value of that until they do it. And then all of a sudden they start seeing, oh, well, wait a minute. It's way easier to get out of a chair if I have a little more strength and a little more endurance and better balance.
All right.
So we just got to get people doing it.
So you might be two people who are a little too savvy, but pretend that you weren't going to create your own content. Let me go through what my pitch is. Okay. So the idea is, if you're already going to CSM, and I'm picking CSM because I'm already going, right? So we're looking at an hour or 90 minutes. Like, I'm not going to ask someone to give up more than that. I'm going to bring someone who knows how to use the camera so I don't miss. Also, so I can focus on this and not this and thinking about those things, right? I'm focused on the person. That person is capturing it. I'd like that person to walk away with a bunch of deliverables. I have the bunch of deliverables in my head. I don't want to focus on a number, but here's what I'm thinking. We'll focus on type, right? And here's how I got to my type. Ta-da, using data, right? So obviously I'm going to do a long form, like sort of like origin story interview. So I'm going to tell me your story, ask them 4 or 5 questions, prompting them. In the end, they'll get that video of them talking from multiple angles with me edited out. That's a great YouTube video that you can put as your intro video. Boom, you've got your business card that's, 2 to 5 minutes, depending. We'll also do a quick batting practice session, 20 questions or something. So you walk away with 20 short form videos. Going out from short form video, man, images are still strong. Look, 4s and 5s across the board. I'll bring in a photographer, and that photographer is now going to pose you in pictures and make you look great. Even with bajillion megapixel cameras, photographers are still a job, right? Because just because you have a power tool doesn't mean you can build a house. So I want you to show up in an outfit or two and do some photo sessions, both inside and out. I want B-roll too, because I want you to have tools to walk away. And what does that mean? I want you walking along the street. I want you, maybe we'll get a mock patient, or we can have you working with someone else. I want to just give you a bunch of B-roll that can have that person. Hey, maybe we'll do like PT school. The person you're treating is the person next to my calendar, and then you have to be that person's B-roll person. But I'm looking at this saying, what are those things? Look to the far right, text-based posts. I'm not going to help you with text. You got ChatGPT for that. You can figure that out. Far to the left, email, newsletters, and blog posts. I'm not doing that. That's not really what I'm here for. Webinars, we can do at a later date. I'm focused on long form, short form images, and then a mock podcast to stay to that middle right. So that's what the package looks like. I'll do as much as I can get and as much as you want. You can tell me which one you want more of. You got 90 minutes. What do you want? So that's my pitch.
Hey, so this is a little feedback from my buddy here in South Jersey, Sam Killicates. He said he had a patient do this for him. They're a videographer. They swapped and bartered services, and she did the exact same thing. And she asked Dr. Sam, questions about what he does and why. And he said it was great. And he said I had someone to talk to instead of the camera. Yeah. So I think this, you're right, Jimmy, this does solve a challenge, which is like, I think because us three have had so many reps, we could just do this. Like Tony talks into the camera and does like the equipment reviews, the right. different product reviews, and that you can't just start there. Like
right.
it's almost really awkward for like most people to start there. So to have a service where you can ask them and kind of interview them, and really it's like one thing that they have to do, right? The long form, you chop it up, that becomes the short form. Then they, a couple poses for pictures. If you're talking about, pictures, that's easy. So really it's just one challenging thing. It's answering questions, which then now becomes not so challenging.
And here's the thing. People always say, you're going to ask me questions. What questions? What questions? Yeah. What questions are you going to ask me? What questions?
Yeah, no, just a chat, just a conversation, right?
Even better. Here's what I tell people when they're going to come on my podcast. They always say yes. And then 40% of the time, what are you going to ask me? I'm like, okay. And I give away my secrets. I have a form that guests fill out. It's not because I'm lazy. It's because I want to make sure I'm on target, right? So the form essentially asks you the same damn question 20 times. What do you want to talk about? What are you smart about that you think other people should know, right? You filling out that form before we come to CSM to do this, you're putting the balls in my batting practice bucket. The questions that come out of my hand and out of my mouth, you wrote them. You just didn't know it. I'm not asking you to write them. I'm asking you to word vomit. It's the same as a subjective exam. What's the problem? What do you think the issue is? When does it hurt? When does it not hurt? You're writing the treatment plan as a patient. You just don't know it. I'm the filter. So that's my idea. So number one, you're not going to hurt my feelings, especially on Dave's birthday. Is this something I should try to do? Is it because I got to put, even though Scott is saying this is low effort, high impact, there's some effort, which I'm okay with, right? I got to organize. I'm thinking about doing it in a cool setup. Like maybe I rent an Airbnb the day before we do it. Like get somewhere dope, like background, right? Some good space, good vibes, right? Like, so it is low effort, but high impact. Do you think I should add anything to the package? Is there anything missing, or is there anything in there that doesn't need to be?
I would say the package is way too big. I'm always, you're always pushing further and I'm always pulling back.
That's what she said. Keep going. That's what she said. You got me last time with the Scranton thing.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Yeah, like 100%. Every time I've offered to do paid interviews, I always get people who want it. It's always a great experience. Either I'm frozen or you guys are frozen.
You're a little stuttery. Dave, what do you think? Is there anything in there that shouldn't be? Should I make this? Is my package too big?
Package is never too big.
Didn't see this on my bingo card for Thursday, but so is there too much? I would rather overserve the first 30 I do.
If it were going to be this whole thing of like, hey, here's the approach, and we're going to do like the long form, and you're going to have cameras and all that, and if it's a CSM, maybe it makes it easier for some. I think it's probably more like a bigger dollar amount for bigger practices. This is not something for like a solo practice owner.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I agree. And this goes back to Chris Doe from the Future podcast. Are you selling a logo to Nike, or are you selling a logo to the mom and pop pizza shop down the road? Because
Crap.
if you want to deliver that to a, you know, mobile therapist who's just getting started, who has no money, they're not going to put money behind it. They're not going to pay to push it out. They're not going to do anything with it. They're going to have a brick of gold that they're using, you know, to keep a door open.
Yeah.
This is something for the ATIs, the Atleticos, the Jags, like the bigger practices that are going to leverage the content you're creating.
Now, do I have a problem with those people already having media teams? Ironically, they do have media teams, but they don't do things like this. They do this. I mean, not to knock these large practices, but they play it so safe that their stuff is mayonnaise, not hot sauce. I don't know if I'm going to give you sriracha, but I want to give you something spicier than mayonnaise here, like something that actually hits on these things. Like, I don't think these things are leveraged enough. I think when they get to a marketing team, and I'll defend the marketing team, is they're told to do stuff. They probably pitch edgy ideas or some grit to it. And then things just get watered down because you have to pay attention to things like stock price.
So this would be where I think you look at a group like the rehab CEOs, Joey and Robbie. They have a group of practice owners that are in that, like, in between. They're growing, they're aggressive, like they want to succeed. They will put money into things that they know is going to provide value. They're not too big and they're not too small. They're the sweet spot for something like this.
Okay. All right, we got 10 minutes left.
All right, we have a couple minutes. What else? You said something. Shoot, you said something that I wanted to double down on, but I forgot it already.
Was it the package?
You guys pick the final topic.
So really quick, Stephen Dunn down in Louisiana, he commented, the last Indeed ad he ran to hire a PT got him 0 leads over 3 weeks. He said, I was shocked. Yeah. I'm ready to start looking again and appreciate the tips. Y'all have a great day. Stephen, thank you for tuning in live, commenting live. And Stephen, all you have to do, you or a virtual assistant or an admin or whoever at your team, you create a little thing like I did. We just, at the top of the show, just go back to, you know, you want to create some offer that has, you know, the certain keywords or the components that'll catch attention like that does. You message, I don't know, like dozens or hundreds of therapists in the Louisiana area. You can go on LinkedIn. You go to, by the way, what I've done is I go on LinkedIn, I click on Fox Rehab or Luna PT, and then I click on New York City Metro, and it gives me a list of people that are already doing home visits in New York City. I message them first because they're already doing home visits, right? So they're halfway there. And I'm like, hey, you could like do the same thing. We're going to train you up. We're going to support you. We're going to coach you and all that. But like, you could make more doing the exact same thing. Less patients per day, less notes per day, all that. But message the Louisiana therapists in the area, your offer. We went over this before if you want me to go over it again. But ask them like, hey, are there any colleagues or friends that we should speak with about this? You know, with a question mark at the end. So you're not even asking that person. Do that for dozens and dozens, maybe 100 therapists in the area. And you're going to get a few that respond and they're like, hey, I'm interested. And like, they had no idea, Stephen, that the practice, you know, was nearby or was looking for a therapist.
I mean, what's unique about his situation is the Pilates and the gyro technique, I think it's called. Like, he has such a specialty niche with the other things that he's doing. I'm honestly surprised that he's still looking for a therapist. Like, I thought he would have been outside of PT. He would have been done with hiring PTs because he has such a big business outside of that. Dead air. What's on your mind, Jimmy?
What else we got? I do have another call in 5 minutes, so I might jump off.
Let's wrap it up here. Let's do parting shots. What are you guys thinking?
I'll start parting shots. I still don't think I understand Tony's question about is it a lazy PT or therapist or not? Maybe it's an evolving thing, but really at the end of the day, it comes back to signaling and all the touch points and everything in the whole process. Through that, you kind of get like an idea of the candidate. And again, they're on their best behavior in the very beginning of the process. So as you get more reps, you're going to get better and better at identifying your ideal candidate.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we hit today was just getting the information out there to so clearly convey the culture and the mission of your business that the quote lazy person doesn't even bother to apply, because they know that this isn't where, you know, they need to be. Don't make it so attractive, so appealing, so we're going to do everything for you and pay you $1 million a year and you see one patient an hour. Just like, I like Jimmy's approach. You're like, look, this job sucks. There's a restaurant in Sarasota that had a sign that said, we serve warm beer and cold food, and they were full every single day. You know, that would be my approach.
Dick's Last Resort. You guys been to Dick's Last Resort? It's a chain. Oh, it's the whole premise is like the servers are just like kind of jerks.
Yeah.
You know, they just talk smack, dude. But here, I mean, funny quick story is like my dad and a group of New York City firemen went in there like on like a golf trip, but like 10 of the dudes didn't know the deal. And so they're in South Carolina getting told by some, you know, waitress that, you know, stick it up your whatever. And these guys were losing it. They had to like be held like, hold on, it's part of the shtick. It's part of the shtick. So, you know, yes, people, you're looking for jagged edges. Look, Dave, people can find a regular job anywhere. As Gary Vee would say, you can find just a crappy job anywhere. You're looking for the one person for the golden mile who wants to do that. All right, I'm going to flesh this idea out. Dave, you let me know when you want to do some batting practice. Before that, I'm going to fire you off an email, and you're going to write my questions for me. That's the trick, is I'm the laziest interviewer ever. The guest tells me what to ask next. We'll see you guys again on Tuesday. Dave, again, happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday.
Do something great.
Thank you. Thank you.
The PT Pinecast is a product of PT Pinecast LLC. It is hosted and produced by PT Pinecast CEO Jim McKay and CBO Sky Donovan from Marymount University. We talk PT, drink beer, and record it. This has been another pour from the PT Pinecast. The PT Pinecast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. More on the show at ptpinecast.com.
Today's episode brought to you by Owens Recovery Science, a single source for PTs who want to add personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training to their clinical practice. Get certified at owensrecoveryscience.com. The all-in-one outpatient PT EMR built on automation. That's Empower EMR. They empower owners, physical therapists, billers, and your front desk to profitably provide the best possible patient care experience. Find them online at empoweremr.com. That is empoweremr.com.